I think it's a human thing. I don't think it's a government thing. I think, look, first of all, we are extremely insecure as a species.
Yes, amen.
We are very insecure. And so let's talk about the government piece for a bit, and then we'll talk about the private piece. There are so actually let's do the opposite. Let's start with private piece first. So there are two categories of truths in the world. There is universal truths like gravity, right? Can't deny it, affects us all equally, 9.8 meters per second squared. Then there are personal truths like political affiliations and religious affiliations, right? That can be just as real as a universal truth to the individual, but are not accepted as a universal truth by others, right? And so we have to recognize internally what is a personal truth for us versus what is a universal truth for everyone. So that's the first problem. And it's challenging because we all believe our personal truths are universal truths, when in reality, they're not necessarily. Two, we talked a little bit here. You had a really good point about people in government saying, I don't believe it. And then you have the true believers that say, I believe everything, right? Both are exactly the same. The true believer is no different than the true skeptic because no matter what information and data you give them, they're never
Exactly,
going to change
exactly. You
their
can't
point.
change their mind.
I don't focus on them. I focus on the other 99.9% of America that has never really considered the topic before and let them make up their own opinion by giving them data and facts, not telling them what to believe, not giving them an opinion as to what narrative they should follow. Look, you've been given a brain by God, use it. Here's the information. You figure it out what this means to you. Is this a personal truth? Is it a universal truth? Now, going back to our friends in government, look, and the scientific community. I went to school to be a scientist. I graduated microbiology, immunology, and parasitology, not parapsychology, the study of parasitology. And I remember a couple lessons and how things have changed in just that time. So there was I'll give you an example. If you look at Homo sapiens sapien in modern format, some people believe, and scientists believe, the consensus it could be modern humans have been around for the last 200 to 400,000 years. So if you look at a 24-hour clock, it was only really the last 15 minutes of the 24-hour clock of modern human history, where it was the Greeks who recognized there were two life forms on this planet. You are either a plant or you are an animal. And it wasn't until the Renaissance or the Age of Enlightenment, about 350 years ago, about maybe the last, I don't know, 45 seconds of our existence, we realized that there was this entire other form of life on this planet we've been sharing all along that is neither plant nor animal. And it's the world of fungus. And so we pat ourselves on the shoulder, good little monkey. And then it wasn't until the last 120 years, last 5 seconds of our existence, towards the stroke of midnight, right? It wasn't until we had the ability to curve glass and put it in a little metal tube and famously shout the words, little beasties, did we discover the true alpha life form on this planet. And in fact, if you take all the biomass of every plant and the biomass of every animal and the biomass of every fungus and add it all up together, it still does not add up to the biomass of the true alpha life form on this planet
Or
that
so
spins.
we believe now, because our ability to know
Exactly.
anything
No,
is
my point.
always a function of our current tools for knowing.
Yes, correct. This is exactly my point. It wasn't until we had the technology to create the microscope and discover the hidden world of microorganisms did we realize, oh my gosh, that's the real life form on this planet, right?
Yeah.
That's inside everybody that lives on the skin of the ISS space station, miles beneath the Arctic ice, right? And I also remember as a kid learning in college by some of the best professors that all life had to derive from photosynthesis. Not true. In fact, if you go to the bottom of the ocean to a black
Right,
smoker, you will see life forms that thrive off of chemosynthesis, right?
right.
So every time we try to put Mother Nature in a box and us little monkeys think we have the answer, we don't. In fact, the one thing we're usually right on is that we're usually wrong at
That's right.
first. And so I think, when you talk about people in the government or scientific community that say, oh, this is all a bunch of hogwash, lest we forget the lessons that we have been taught. Hubris is a BI, you know what, right? Have you not learned? Every time we do simple things, oh, we'll never be able to break the sound barrier. Wrong. We'll never be able to break the 4 minute mile. Wrong, right? We are constantly wrong until we actually do it. And I think that is part of our problem because in government, we expect ourselves to always have the answers.